All right, next thing I want to talk to you about is something I've been struggling with for a while. Emulation.
I
Emulating.
thought you were going to talk about your gender.
That's not on this podcast. That was a personal conversation.
Well, you said you were struggling with it. I got confused.
Yeah, no,
Like you are with your gender.
sometimes I I don't even know what to say. I'm just so emulation versus actually having the physical copy. As you see, I definitely like having the physical copy, but and I always put my nose up when I thought of emulation. I'm like, ah, if you don't have the real thing, why bother? But I don't know if it's old age. I don't know if I'm uh, lazier. I don't know what it is, but having a box or having it on your computer that has everything easily loaded is just appealing to me now. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to collect old games and go through and find a lot of old games and do that. I'm just saying, kind of opened my eyes when you were over, Shane, and we were trying to get Castlevania 2 to work. We would blow on it. You kept yelling at me to lick it. We rattled it.
You actually licked it. That was great.
Oh, we shook it. We put it in, and it would work for 5 minutes, and then it would glitch out on us, and we really couldn't play the game. A copy of the game that I had. So when you left, I started thinking, man, emulation. That's about the only. I mean that's something I never ever wanted to get into. So I started researching it, digging into it, and I said, okay, let me get a few games. Let me see what it's like. And I'm like, man, this is so much easier. So then, like with anything, I got really in depth with it. So I made a RetroPie game console and put a bunch of ROMs on and emulators on it. Hooked it up to my TV, and I'm like, am I ever gonna pull out a cartridge again and put it in? How easy this is. Probably not. Now, is it going to kill my collecting personality? No, I'm still going to try to collect games and get games I want, just because I have a disability there. But emulation, I'm grateful for, and next time you come over, we're gonna have no matter what game we want, obviously we can play, but we're not gonna have that limitation of oh the NES isn't loading this game up, so or the cartridge is just the pins need cleaned or something like that.
Yeah, I think that you're doing yourself a really good service to separate the collecting from the playing, right? I mean, because you talked about the mechanical issues, but aside from that, I mean, let's say we wanted to go play the original Legend of Zelda. I mean, what
Right.
would you have to do? You would not only have to find the game and buy it. You'd have to buy a Nintendo a controller, make sure it can hook up to your TV. You know, if you have a newer TV, that might not even be possible anymore, right? I mean, you know, I it's there's a lot involved just to play like one or two old games. And I mean, how excited do you get anymore for a really old game and say, well, I really can't wait to play Mike Tyson's Punch Out on the original NES? You don't. You know, you might do it for nostalgia, but mostly people buy the original ones for collecting, right? So if you wanted to play the original Zelda, what could you do? I mean, you can buy it in one of the 10 ways it's already been remade or downloadable on different formats, you know, the Nintendo Network. Do
Right.
they have an official name for that? The
Yeah, the Nintendo
the
store. It's just the store.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
But you know, I mean, they kept re-releasing it. They
Yeah.
re-released it on like I think the Game Boy Advance or something, and then they released it on their own network. I mean, you know,
Yep.
emulation is no different than just downloading a game, right? However, most old games have no trade-in value, so they're strictly a collector's edition at this point. You know, I mean, there's no point in buying a game that you can easily download and play. That's going to take up a minuscule amount of data on your computer, or your hard drive.
Right.
You know, and I think that emulation is a really good way to find out where something came from. You know, if you want to play the original Sonic and find out where the new Sonic Mania is going to be and what that's like, you know, instead of going to buy a whole new Genesis or assuming you don't already have one because you're a youngin,
Right.
um, then you have to find and buy Sonic, and it's not cost effective.
Right.
I think emulation is a really great way to just have fun, play old games, and not worry about the cost involved or any of the mechanical issues. As long as everything works together and the software works,
Mhm.
then why not? I mean,
Right.
the company is not making any new copies of Nintendo games, right? So they're not making any money off of those Nintendo games anymore, unless they release them on their network and charge you to download them. But most of them they aren't. Maybe some of the popular ones. So I'm
Right.
really glad you got into emulating, and so now I want to also have something like you have, so that way I can emulate you.
Well, yeah. Well, you can have me anytime you want. You don't have to emulate me. And I always work. You don't have to blow me or actually didn't come out like I wanted it to. I do apologize. Um,
Yeah, since you're lying, last time I had to blow you.
no, no, no. But but the bottom line is, I'm really big in emulating now, and I have a little bit of a. I don't agree with you. I do actually get excited to play some of these old school games. Um, you know, a lot of them are ones that I've wanted to go back to that I haven't. Um, some of the old school RPGs where as I've grown older, I have a more appreciation for. So I'm a little bit excited to go through some of the Dragon Warrior games and things like that. But no, I definitely see your point. I mean, I'm still gonna collect games and still have. I mean, I have all my systems hooked up to my one TV. Um, and I took the time to get everything set up and work like it should, right? So now I just have another device that I can have all, this little device that plays all, everything I own, and then some. So um, it's pretty exciting.